This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Welcome to another video. Welcome to another video. This is Value Tech Sense, where I show you how to get the best tech for less. And in this video, we're going to talk about if you should or should not upgrade to the S95B or the A95K. All right. I've had a lot of people in the comments section ask me if they should upgrade to QD-OLED. And well, you saw the thumbnail. Don't do it. All right. Let's talk about it. All right, guys, jumping straight into the video. Before we get into my reasoning of why you should not buy into QD-OLED or upgrade rather, I think it's very important that we actually tackle what an upgrade actually is. All right, because I get a lot of people asking me if they should upgrade when they bought a TV 2 years ago, 3 years ago, even 4 years ago. Okay. Normal people don't buy TVs every 3 years. Okay, when you buy a TV, it's supposed to last you for 5, 7, in some cases, even 10 years. Okay, even 10 years. All right. Now, an upgrade, right? An upgrade. When you upgrade your TV, it's supposed to totally change your experience. I mean, completely change your experience. All right. When actual upgrades happen to televisions or in the television world, not only does it affect your TV, but it also affects the industry. All right. Everything changes when there's an actual upgrade. All right. It's got to put you in the mind of like when black and white TV went to color. All right. That changed everything.
And by the way, Bob, don't you think it's about time for you to move into your new color set?
Well, I have one more question that maybe you can answer while I'm on my way down the studio to the new set. Just what will this change mean to the Channel 2 viewers who will still be watching us in black and white?
Well, we think you'll see a big difference on black and white receivers. The new color cameras will give an improved monochrome picture, and all our new color sets here in the studio were designed with that in mind. Are you all set, Bob? Take it away in full spectrum color.
Well, Doug, first I'd like to say this, that I feel doubly honored to have been chosen to be the first one involved in our big change, because there are so many much more colorful characters around here than this reporter.
That was an upgrade. All right. It totally changed televisions forever. All right. Totally changed your experience. Not only did the TVs change, but the way content is produced also changes. All right. How many of y'all remember when the first HD TV came out? People were lined up just to see it.
It's like looking out a window. That's how people are describing the picture on the newest TV set to hit the market.
In San Diego, California today, the first high-definition television sets went on sale. They're expected to arrive in stores throughout the country in coming weeks.
This morning, there was a long line of people that stretched all the way around this store where the very first Panasonic high-definition television sets hit the market.
It was quite a media event at Dow Stereo in San Diego, one of the stores Panasonic picked to unveil its 56-inch rear projection digital set.
Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Much better than I thought it would be.
Panasonic is in a class by itself, being the first to sell the TV of the future. Its HD TVs went on sale in San Diego today. Panasonic unveiled its new HD TV with a lot of hype and fanfare. HD TV is the biggest thing to happen to television since color.
Does this mean I'm going to have to shave 4 times a day?
Well, I don't know. That's a really good picture, yeah.
I'm afraid of that.
The TV of the future is here. The new high-definition TV sets made their debut in stores.
It marks the start of a new era in television. High-definition TV, or HD TV, hit the shelves just minutes ago.
Dow gets the first to get a chance to show HD TV from Panasonic, folks. You want to come down and join us, because what you're going to see here has not been seen anywhere in the world. HD TV, as far as I'm concerned, stands for hallelujah. And it's amazing what we're seeing here.
Well, this is the first shipment. We've been shipping to dealers across the country this week with this new product. And not only is it an amazing digital set, but it's also the ultimate analog set as well. So it'll improve the picture quality of the regular TV broadcast that you get and work with the new digital broadcast.
All right, Bill, explain to people out there, that pizza-eating beer drinker that's watching that doesn't understand what HD TV stands for. Give it to them simple. What is it all about?
Better picture quality, in many cases a wider screen, you see more of the picture. So if you're watching a sporting event, you can see more of the plays develop. If you're watching a movie, you see the movie in the original aspect ratio it was recorded in.
This set switches the channel to a new era.
This is a high-resolution format. It's one much more looking like film. Some people have described it as looking out of a window.
Sports, all kinds of settings in almost 3 dimensions. It's like looking through a crystal clear window.
Alan Farwell was sold as soon as he saw the picture quality.
You know, I had to be honest with you. When I walked in, I didn't know when I got here if I would buy it or not. But when I saw the picture quality and the difference just on analog transmission, I was amazed.
That was an upgrade. That was an upgrade. All right. That was an upgrade. All right. It totally changes your experience. Now, we haven't had an actual upgrade like that in years. All right. In years. A lot of you guys are out here buying televisions, right? Every few years, buying the same TV that you just got rid of. You literally got to put these TVs under a microscope just to see the differences. That's how insignificant these differences are, because we haven't had an actual upgrade in years. Every time you watch these TV reviews, it's always just a little bit brighter, or it's a little bit sharper, or it's just a touch better with motion, or just a hair this, or just a hair that. Those are not upgrades, guys. Those are not upgrades. Now, we went from VHS to DVD, from DVD to HD DVD and Blu-ray, from 3D Blu-ray to where are we today? UHD. All right, UHD, HDR. That's where we are presently. All right, we have not had a leap in upgrades since HDR came out. The biggest upgrade we've had to display technology as far as HDR is concerned and where we are presently is NanoSys.
So we're here at the NanoSys here in the Silicon Valley, and who are you?
I'm Jason Hartlow, President and CEO of NanoSys.
So NanoSys is the quantum dot company, right?
That's right. We provide quantum dots to every consumer brand product in the world that's out there today. We have close to 100% market share. All of the products that you're seeing with quantum dots, QLED, PQ Vision, all of these various different brandings that you see out there, P-Series Quantum from Vizio, all of these products are using the materials that we developed and manufacture right here at NanoSys. When I joined the company in 2008, what we had was basically this kind of a material. So we had, this is just a demo, this is green quantum dots in a solution. And so you can see that these, you know, they don't look like much, but when we put them over a blue light source, we can get this very perfect pure green color that's emitted by them. To go from that, though, which is liquid in a bottle, into a television is a big step. And so what we had to do was come up with a way to integrate those materials into a television manufacturing process that was cost effective and maintained all of that lifetime and all those other characteristics that was necessary. And ultimately what we came up with was a film concept. And so this is the film that's actually used in that television that we saw earlier. This is a quantum dot enhancement film. And what it is it's a very, very thin layer of that nanomaterial, the quantum dots, dispersed between 2 sheets of plastic with some resin to give it a little stability. And this is a very robust implementation. This can last for many, many years in the TV application, and actually outlast a lot of the other components.
So that's what you call QDEF?
This is QDEF, quantum dot enhancement film.
And it feels it's not just a sheet of plastic. That's what I kind of thought, but it's much more complicated than just a sheet of transparent plastic.
So this is an example. What we have here, a couple little things that I'm going to show you. This is a little handheld spectrometer. And so what it allows us to do is actually measure the spectra of light that's emitted from any given source. And so what I'm going to do with this guy is I'm going to show you kind of what a normal white backlight would look like in an LCD. So this is built using white LEDs. This is a conventional backlight panel. And so behind that set, there is this white light, and then there's a modulator in front of it, which flickers each individual pixel on and off. But ultimately, the source of the light is coming from here. So when we look at the spectra of that light source, and we look specifically at it, we see that we have a very, very broad peak here, which is containing green and yellow and orange and red. So there isn't a distinct green and red peak. As a result of that, in order to make a red and green color channel at the television level, we have to filter out all of that yellow content, get rid of it basically. Terribly inefficient. And as a result, the resulting peaks that we get aren't very sharp, they aren't very well defined. On the other hand, if we take our quantum dot film, we use a blue backlight, blue LEDs, which are basically the same LEDs as are used in the white, just without the so-called YAG phosphor material, which converts the blue light into that yellow light. We take that blue light source, we put one of our quantum dot films into the backlight unit, and now we've got this perfect light for making perfect red, green, and blue. Again, we take the spectral meter, and we see that the peaks are very, very sharply and well defined. So now your green subpixel is going to have a green color that looks like that. Your red is going to have a red that looks like that, and your blue is going to have a blue that looks like that. Very sharp, very perfect primaries. And we can see that when we look at one of the sets. So for example, if we come over here, take a look at one of these white areas, which has all 3 colors, again, we can see that we've got that perfect red, green, blue in terms of color. Now, if we look at an OLED set, which is using an alternative type of lighting technology, we can see that, again, we're back to having this very messy primary system. And so the green and the red are not well defined. As a result, you don't get the ability to paint your color palette perfectly. If you have perfect primaries, you can paint all of the colors in between perfectly with your color rendering. But if you have messy primaries, you're going to wind up with messy colors in between.
So why the OLED can't figure this out?
Well, the emission technology, the light emitting technology used for the OLED is quite broad in terms of the spectrum that they have to live with. So it's a real fundamental limit of the OLED materials.
And at CES, I saw an amazing demo. I think Sony was showing 10,000 nits, some crazy bright displays. It's also great, even 4K, to have crazy bright displays. It makes you suddenly feel like you're outdoors.
Yeah, this effect of really having lifelike brightness can't be understated in terms of the viewing experience. It goes from being the difference really of looking at what you know is just kind of television to almost like you're looking out the window at an actual outdoor scene, right? The specular reflections off of shiny surfaces, the way the sunlight glints, the way backlight happens, all of this with high dynamic range, with very high brightness, is extremely compelling in terms of visual experience.
Yeah, so here we're showing a demonstration about HDR content. And we wanted to show, give people a sense of how HDR content works. And so in this demonstration, we have a Vizio P Quantum again on top and a 2018 OLED on the bottom. And we're showing content that really takes full advantage of all of the capabilities of high dynamic range. So this content has peak values that run all the way up to 10,000 nits, which is what the HDR standard allows, and it's full BT2020 color gamut. And so you can really see the value of the extra luminance that the Quantum Dot TV has. So the Vizio P Quantum peaks at 2,400 nits. The OLED TV is something like 700 or 800 nits peak luminance.
How much do you say the nits peak?
2,400.
That's pretty high.
It's pretty high.
Is that their highest spec TV?
It was for 2018, and for 2019 they just announced that they'll have a 2,900 nit peak luminance for one of their TVs.
It's pretty awesome to get that much nits.
Yeah.
And this is just 700.
Yep, 700, 800, depending on how small you make the patch, can go a little higher even.
So right now, I don't know if that's unfair or not, but people have windows, right? So normally people don't close the shades just to watch TV. So you have an advantage right there, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, we live in California, so we watch football games at 10 in the morning, and the shades are open, it's pretty bright. But, you know, the Quantum Dot TV looks great in any lighting environment. I think that's a big part of what we're saying here. This is a really great scene to look at. So you see the sun here is, you can see it, right? And the OLED set, it's actually missing. And so what's going on here, right? In this scene, this looks like sunrise, the day's starting, you know, it's gonna be a beautiful day maybe. Over here, sunset, the storm is rising. In terms of for a movie or a piece of content, it's a very different meaning, right? And so one of the pieces of feedback we get when we do these kind of shootout demos is like, well, yeah, sure, but you know, what did the director intend? What did the content producer intend?
Why does the sky look a little bit bluish down there?
The sky looks a little bit bluish.
I don't know
guess
if it looks bluish or not.
Yeah.
But I mean, the colors are better on the Quantum Dot?
Well, the colors are better, but this scene actually, and we have this really great tool here from AJA Video Systems, and this is analyzing every pixel actually of the content in real time. And you can see from the color gamut chart here that it is wide gamut content. Actually, it actually falls a little bit outside P3 in the yellow for the sun, right? And, but mostly the content is within Rec 709. The real thing here is the luminance. So this frame of content has a peak luminance of 9,788 nits.
Whoa.
So that's almost all the way at the top of the range that HDR content can carry. You actually see it in the histogram here, this peak for the sun way up here at the top. That's the sun
nice.
down here.
So eventually there'll be 10,000 nit displays and it'll be perfect for that?
Yeah, we think so. And so that's actually outside the range of what the Quantum Dot TV can show too, but because it has a higher luminance range, it doesn't have to tone map the sun down too much, right? It can actually show there's a difference here and here. Whereas with the lower peak luminance for the OLED, it needs to really tone map those 10,000 nit values way down into something it can show, and that's where you sort of lose some information there, and it totally changes the meaning of the scene.
I want to say one quick thing here about the competing technology, and take a look at some of this content while I'm talking. So the one thing that our competitor, in terms of the OLED technology, has a big challenge with supporting higher resolution because their pixel architecture is much denser. So they basically have to make trade-offs between brightness, luminance, color gamut, and then those are top two attributes that consumers love and want, or they have to risk higher increased likelihood of burn-in, which they already have problems with. And so really, for the LCD technology, Quantum Dots are the ultimate enabler in terms of brightness and color gamut.
These TVs are just so realistic, right? Life's like we're living in a magical age, kind of. This stuff was not possible, like, to imagine 10 years ago, right?
Yeah, even 5 years ago, maybe.
5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm trying to think what year it was.
We're living in the future.
2014, we showed a 2,000 nit professional reference monitor that we developed with Dolby. at this very show, and people thought that was totally crazy. They thought, this is nuts. You'll never have a consumer product that's 2,000 nits, right? I mean, like, forget about it. Why even make this? Why even make this content ecosystem, right? And here we have a 3,000 nit TV that's coming out in a couple of months.
And at that time, it was a water-cooled display, so it required water cooling. Now we have the technology and the capability to get these sets up to 3,000 plus nits, like you see here with the Vizio P-Series Quantum X, and not water-cooled, and a beautiful picture quality, and just amazing experience. So it's like you're looking out a window. It's a really lifelike experience.
This demo is too cool.
We thought you might like it, especially the music. Jeff picked the music, by the way, for you.
So this Vizio P-Series Quantum X.
Yes.
All new and not too expensive.
Yeah, this is all new, so I don't think they've announced the pricing yet, and it's not here on our placard, but this will be available in the retailers in the next 45 days, also available online. We think this is going to be one of the top TVs, if not the #1 TV for 2019. With their 2018 model, the Vizio P-Series 65, they did not have a Quantum X that year. P-Series 65 Quantum last year, they won awards across many different sites and were one of the top TVs, if not the top TV, at many different reviewers. So
3,000 nits, hopefully it's less than $3,000.
Oh, it will be less than $3,000. I'm sure of that. Yeah.
And do you have, so you saw in Hisense, Vizio, Samsung?
Yeah, we have more than 11 different consumer electronics brands that are showing quantum dot technology or making it in mass production today. So really everyone is using quantum dot technology for the benefits that you've seen here at our booth, and also because it's very cost advantageous today versus other types of technologies. So it's really the best viewing experience at the best price, and many technical advantages of the technology itself.
What can we imagine for next year's SID Display Week? You already showed what's going to happen.
Yeah, so Jeff is here in charge of our SID Display Week booth and everything.
Brian's actually off right now picking the booth for next year, so we'll have to see. We've got a year to figure it out.
All right.
We think you're going to see more and more demos of quantum dot color conversion. That's sort of the next major implementation of quantum dot technology. You're going to see more and more brighter displays. You're going to see more innovation, like from Hisense with this XD type of technology. So yeah, it's going to be a great year next year, and the industry is on a treadmill. We never stop, so we're going to continue to innovate and keep delivering new technology.
And most importantly, this awesome stuff is reaching millions of people.
That's right.
So all these people, everybody is getting access to this amazing quality.
Right. That's right. The forecast for this year is somewhere between 7 to 10 million different quantum dot sets that'll be on the market in terms of volume. We've outsold the OLED technology for the past several years, according to DSCC, and we're predicted to continue to do so for the foreseeable future, so forever with the quantum dot technology, and it's because of the performance and the cost advantages.
So we're here at the SID Display Week, and who are you?
Hi, I'm Jeff Urich. I'm the Director of Marketing at Nanosys.
And Nanosys is doing quantum dot?
We are the Quantum Dot Company, yeah.
Quantum dot?
The Quantum Dot Company, yeah.
How is that possible?
Well, we're really the first company to focus on quantum dots since our founding in 2001, and we believe we have the largest manufacturing capacity installed for quantum dot technology today.
2001 is a long time ago.
It's a long time ago.
Because everybody's talking about quantum dot, but more like recently, right?
Right.
Like the last couple of years, maybe.
Yeah, well, it's a brand new material, and so it takes a lot of work to bring a brand new material, a nano material that we manufacture, and bring it to market, take it out of the lab and bring it to market at this mass production scale.
Were you at the company since 2001?
I've been at the company since 2009.
That's pretty long still, right?
Pretty long time, yeah.
And what were you thinking all this time?
Well, it's been a really exciting ride. I mean, when I joined, we're still really at the lab scale, and it's been awesome to watch this technology grow, over the last few years. Since our first product was launched in 2013, we were out here talking about color. We were at SID saying, "Hey, wide color gamut matters."
2009, 10, 11, all this.
Yeah. And the industry was saying, I don't know, we're all very focused on resolution back at that time, right? And now you see the whole industry is very interested in high dynamic range, high peak luminance, good contrast ratio,
it's even more
wide color gamut.
Than the resolution.
It's more important, and so finally we see the industry really understanding our message and adopting the technology very broadly.
Or maybe people have reached 4K and they're thinking, that's great, now we need to focus on color.
Maybe so, yeah. We think 8K is great too.
8K is fantastic, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So right here you're comparing the awesome and many people in stores,
Yeah.
Like the salespeople in the stores, they often tell the customer, this is the best you can get.
Is the OLED.
That's what they usually say, kind of. But actually, the quantum dot LCD, I mean, LCD is amazing. It's always like finding a way to be better. Or
Always
something.
finding a way to better. You know, we're not really an LCD company. I think that's one of the things maybe people don't understand about Nanosys. But when we started to try to implement the quantum dot technology, we wanted to find the best way to get it into displays as soon as we could. And if you look at the TV industry, especially, 99% of the capacity is for a quantum dots, or sorry, for LCD.
99.
Right? 99%. Over $200 billion of installed capex in the ground already, right?
There's a lot of billions in the OLED now.
A lot of billions, but only really one factory.
5, 10, 20 billion or something, right?
Still have to
That's
build.
more than 1% of the 200 billion, right?
Yeah, but it's 1% of the actual output of the capacity. Output in terms of the unit volume.
Quantities.
Quantities, that's right.
Oh.
So we really think LCD, if you want to address the mass market, LCD is the way to do it today. So we want to integrate our technology into the LCD display.
Could you be in the OLED too?
Absolutely, yeah. We have some new demonstrations about that on the other side.
OLEDs.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a very exciting idea.
Do you have a quantum dot TV at home?
Yeah, of course.
You got it, right?
Yeah.
I'd really like to get one, but Samsung, of course, is a beautiful quantum dot displays.
Love
but
those
there's
guys.
more and more companies doing this, right?
There's more and more companies doing it all the time. Nanosys has now in the market, of course, Samsung's our number one customer, top investor in Nanosys, actually. Samsung's our number one customer, top investor in Nanosys, actually. But we also have some other technology, other companies pushing the technology, TCL, iSense, and of course, this brand new Vizio here. We're really excited to be showing this off. This is a pre-release demo.
Nanosys quantum dot technology. That has been the biggest upgrade to display technology in recent years. All right. Better colors, better HDR, higher peak brightness, right? And who's been the biggest investor? Who's the biggest player with Nanosys? Samsung, right? Nanosys is not an LCD company, but they are the company behind the technology of the most recent real upgrade to display technology, right? So where does that leave OLEDs? See, OLEDs have not changed that much in years, all right? The peak of OLED technology was the Blu-ray era, right? It was the Blu-ray era. And I see so many people, I upgraded from my C9 to a C1, from my CX to a C2, when it's just the same TV, guys, all right? It's the same TV. Besides what, gaming features, right? What, it's a little bit brighter, it's a little bit better. If I took a C8, a C9, a C10, a C1, and a C2, and I put them in 5 separate rooms, right? 5 separate rooms mounted to the wall with the exact same content playing on them, and I did a blind test and asked 100 people to go in all of those rooms and tell me which TV was which, right? All they got to do is match the room up with the model of OLED. All right, they would not be able to do it. You would not be able to walk in that room, watch the same content and say, oh yeah, that's the C8. That's the C1. They have not changed that much, guys. But what has changed, right? What has changed is the price of these OLEDs. See, OLED used to be this niche market, all right? Just 5 years ago, a 55-inch Sony OLED costed $5,000, all right? $6,500 for a 65-inch, right? But today, you can get an 83-inch for $6,500, right? You can get a 77-inch for under $3,000. That's where we're at with OLED today, all right? Today, right now, is actually the best time for you to buy an OLED if you've never owned one. Because a lot of people couldn't pay the price of admission before, right? You had QLEDs with new technology, brighter picture, better colors, bigger sizes for less money. That's why LG had to drop their prices. That's why OLEDs are so cheap now, right? They had to compete in the QLED market because the quantum dots is the latest of technology. That's why everybody's so hyped up over QD-OLED, because the demand was created for OLED. All right, there had to be a demand created, and the demand was created because people that couldn't afford to buy them before now can buy them. They're seeing perfect black for the first time, and they all sound like LG commercials. Infinite contrast, perfect black. And I mean, it's been the same thing since OLED came out, and they're still talking about the same thing. No innovation at all besides efficiency. All right, making them less susceptible to burn in. All right, that's the only upgrade you've seen on these OLEDs until now, right? Because now that there's a demand for OLED and people can afford to buy OLED, right? Samsung's been 5 steps ahead, right? Now that everybody's on the OLED train, Samsung drops QD-OLED. Checkmate.
Gotcha, bitch!
Got it! Is it time to crown the S95B the king of HDR? In my mind, I think it is. If you're within the budget range of the S95B, you need to consider the WRGB OLED as dead.
LG's day of reckoning is finally here. The Samsung QD-OLED, I tried to stay as unexcited for it as possible, and really honestly thought it was going to be a little bit better in a handful of scenes or scenarios, or needed content to be graded more in BT 2020 or things like that in order for it to show any advantage. And well, I like to stay pessimistic so that I can be surprised, and I was very, very, very surprised. This image should just speak volumes. This is how it looks. LG C1 on the left and the S95B on the right. I perceptually matched the S95B to have the same white as the C1, both of them calibrated, and I'm showing in the settings there's nothing in the settings that's messing up the LG or making one look better than the other. That's legitimately the difference here. It's just literally mind-blowing that there is so much detail and color and brightness that is lost that no one knew about until now.
Really, nigga?
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man? Bro, I'm out, man. That nigga's tripping.
This is Value Tech Sense, where I show you how to get the best tech for less. And this is the second of a series of videos I will be dropping on why I prefer QLEDs over OLEDs. In this video, I am going to show you why I prefer QLEDs over OLEDs. In this video, we're going to be talking about HDR, okay? The topic is HDR and why my 2020-2021 Vizio P-Series Quantum X is an OLED killer. Welcome to another video. Welcome to another video. This is Value Tech Sense, where I show you how to get the best tech for less. I am an audiophile, videophile, cinephile, but I am also a value shopper, all right? And in this video, I am going to show you what they are not telling you about OLEDs. See, QLEDs share a common flaw with blooming, but OLEDs share a common flaw also with brightness. Here's your LG CX, your Vizio OLED, and the Sony A8H, and they all share the same problem. They're all dimmer than the QLED. And I don't care how much you want to measure it, man. This looks more like real life. That's why they say QLEDs are like looking out of a window, and these look like you have sunglasses on. This is more representative of what you will see when you walk outside of your door. All right, let's just play the video a little bit. Look at that. I mean, just look at the highlights. It's not just the whites. The greens are different. The skin is different. The hat is different. All of the colors are different. It affects your overall picture. You're talking about a TV that can hit 2,000 nits and another TV that cannot get that bright, right? Can't even get that bright in HDR, right? You can really see the difference. So even in a dark room, when I'm in a dark room and I'm watching my QLED, this is the difference. in the depth of the picture and the colors. This is the difference, guys. And it is no exaggeration. Unless you've been living under a rock, that difference has been there for years. It's been there for years. All right? That OLED bias just runs deep. You couldn't see the forest past the blooming. That's what it was, man. You could not see the forest past the blooming, right? That OLED bias runs so deep that people actually got offended that Vincent at HDTV Test called out Samsung for raised EOTF and juiced up colors, even though he's done that on QLEDs for years.
Just like last year, the default EOTF tracking in the most accurate HDR movie mode on our Samsung Q90R review sample was still much brighter than the ST2084 perceptual quantization or PQ standard. As you can see from this chart here, the yellow line is the reference. It's how much light should be put out by the screen at each brightness interval for HDR10 content, which works in absolute rather than relative terms. And the Q90R overshoots the reference standard by a fair amount pretty much throughout the entire luminance range. Furthermore, even after we calibrated the QE65 Q90R to track PQ correctly, there's undefeatable dynamic tone mapping that worked under the hood to brighten the HDR picture again. Here, I'm displaying windowed grayscale patterns in HDR, and our calibrated Samsung Q90R output similar levels of brightness as another TV that tracked PQ accurately. However, notice that once I summoned the information bar from our Oppo 203 4K Blu-ray player, the pattern would brighten momentarily before settling down again. While many non-critical viewers may prefer this type of HDR picture that is skewed brighter intentionally, there are side effects even if you don't care about the notion that you are no longer seeing the creator's intent. For HDR, peak brightness measured 1600 nits on a 10% window after calibration to D65 white point and 450 nits full fill. DCI-P3 color gamut coverage came in at 95% UV, while Retina 220 was 73%, underpinned by a spectral power distribution which revealed beautifully distinct red, green and blue waveforms courtesy of quantum dot technology. As you can expect from an LED LCD without as much ABL restriction as OLED televisions, the Samsung QN900A presented bright HDR scenes with plenty of impact. Although in some ways this is artificially boosted by the always-on dynamic tone mapping that has been implemented by Samsung to make HDR images brighter than reference. We had to change local dimming from the default setting of standard to high to mitigate the over-brightening, and even then we still had to go into the ST2084 EOTF and change it to -2 to approximate a correct looking APL in certain scenes.
He's called Samsung out on that on QLEDs for years, but now that it's on an OLED, now all of a sudden people got a problem with it, right? Nah, that's just that OLED bias kicking in. Nobody else on YouTube does a more comprehensive, thorough review than Vincent does. Nobody. It takes him days, sometimes weeks to put a review out, compared to what? Y'all going to the store, buying a TV and giving your subjective opinion about it? Come on, man. Really? I don't see nobody else, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't see nobody else calibrating these displays, right, and comparing them to a reference monitor. But then you're going to go to your little shootout, right? You're going to go to the shootout and compare a bunch of calibrated TVs to a reference monitor. That shit don't make no damn sense at all. Vincent is one of the few YouTubers, right, that understands if you want that photorealism, you want that HDR that represents real life, you need brightness.
So some people keep saying that their TV is bright enough, they don't see the need for brighter TVs, or that they need to wear sunglasses to watch a high-nit TV cause it's so bright. In this video, I'm going to measure the peak brightness of some objects in the real world to give you some perspective. This is the Konica Minolta LS100 Luminous Meter, and we're going to measure the nits of some of the objects we can find in my back garden. It is not the sunniest day, there is some sun, but it is not blazingly bright, unlike Florida or Dubai. So let's kick things off by walking across here and pointing the luminance meter at one of the more reflective objects I can find here. So this is an up-down light, metallic, and if I can try and switch on the luminance meter and then point it at the object, the reflections, and then try to take a quick measurement, and you can see here it is 2800 nits. Okay, and then what we're going to do is to walk across here and point the luminance meter at the bell. I'm not even sure I'm hitting the right spot. Story of my life, really. And it's 3300 nits. Okay, and then if we can walk across here and point it at these flowers here, and they are not even reflective, but you know, just for the sake of measurement, we'll just measure the nits here. You can see that it is easily 530 nits. And then if I look up here, there are some shiny pendants. Just randomly point at it, take a snapshot. 1800 nits.
And people really out here saying that this dude lived in the past, right? Certain quarters saying that this dude is living in the past. All right, he can review OLED TVs, but he also understands their limitations when it comes to HDR. This is a tweet from Vincent. All right, this is a tweet from Vincent. Guess which display is the dual layer LCD reference monitor? Because they can do 1000 nits full field. I had to lower my camera exposure so much that the other two displays appeared depressingly dim by comparison. Guess which is the reference monitor? That'd be this very bright one in the middle, right? These are probably two OLEDs that can only hit 150 nits full field. You cannot compare that to a reference monitor. That's why he said you wouldn't know a reference HDR image if it smacked you in the face. Right? And people are more excited about spending $3,000 on a 65-inch QD-OLED that can only hit 200 nits full field than an 85-inch TV that can damn near hit the brightness of a reference monitor full field with 3000 nit specular highlights and 80% BT 2020 coverage.
Now in this TV's brighter HDR picture modes, it was able to hit 3000 nits peak brightness no problem. In calibrated dark, HDR, and Dolby Vision modes, the TV maxed out at about 2300 nits using a 10% window. It was lower at 2 and 5% sizes, peaked at 10%, and then dropped down steeply to about 800 nits in a 100% full white window. And that is actually remarkable. In bright mode, I clocked 1500 nits in SDR, which is just like, that's excessive if you ask me. But if there was any lingering doubt about whether this was a good bright room TV, let me banish that thought from your mind right now. This TV punches hard, like Mike Tyson on a plane after getting bottles of water thrown at him hard. Color accuracy measured pretty well with an average delta E of about 2.45. That's pretty good, but it was the color gamut and color volume that really impressed me. This TV is covering up to 80% of the BT 2020 color space according to my measurements, which is pretty awesome.
Now, I don't know if you caught that, but the new Vizio P-Series Quantum X, that 85-inch that Caleb reviewed, hit 800 nits full field in calibrated dark mode. In dark mode, all right? That TV will have no problem hitting 1000 nits full field. Not to mention that the TV also has Dolby Vision. Speaking of Dolby Vision, all right? Speaking of Dolby Vision, all right? I did a video called Dolby Vision for Dummies, all right? And I will link it at the end of this video. I suggest you watch it if you are confused about Dolby Vision, all right? But the main thing with Dolby Vision is, all right, for you to see Dolby Vision the way it was intended for you to see, you need brightness, all right? Every time you hear somebody complaining about Dolby Vision being too dark or it doesn't look right, they're always on an OLED. They're always on an OLED, right? A Blu-ray device. something that has not changed in years. All right, for you to see Dolby Vision, you need brightness. How come nobody is complaining about how Dolby Vision looks on LCDs? It's always on an OLED. So anyway, guys, this was one of the most painful live streams that I've watched on Dolby Vision. And we're just going to debunk some misinformation. So I'm just going to play this and we're going to get right into it.
This is Dolby Vision. Okay. One TV is the Sony, the other one is the LG. None of them are better than HDR10. And here's the irony. It was graded in Dolby Vision and then converted to HDR10. This is Stacy Spears' content. They wanted to make sure that they had, the best of the best. It's 10,000 nit Dolby Vision, but because it's metadata, the TVs are getting all the information. They're getting the max, they're getting the minimum.
Pause. It's 10,000 nit Dolby Vision. All right? I mean, that's just basic physics. You're going to squeeze 10,000 nit Dolby Vision, right, into a 700, 800 nit display. And you're wondering why it don't look right. I mean, it's not that difficult to understand. You need luminance. That's why the Dolby Vision and the HDR10 Plus are at the top of the disc on the demo. They're at the very top, right? The very top, 10,000 nits. That's the goal of HDR, all right? 10,000 nits. And you're trying to squeeze that into an OLED. Let's continue.
And they do what they do. So the Sony looks too dark, but the sun looks fine. The LG is lit well, but the sun, you lose all the detail. This is Dolby Vision, mind you. And then if you go to the HDR10, which I had previously, they all look great at 600 nits. This does not look like 600 nit content.
They all look great at 600 nits because it falls within the range of what the TV can show. Very simple, very easy, very basic. All right? 600 nits. Even though movies are graded to 1,000 nits, 4,000 nits, and 10,000 nits, that is the destination for HDR and 12-bit color. Let's keep it going.
Even come close. And so many of you said to me, I love how Dolby Vision looks. My question to you is, well, do you have the LG? You like the right-hand side is the LG. You like the LG look of Dolby Vision? Or you like the Sony look of Dolby Vision? Or would you rather have HDR10, where they all look very similar? And they're not worse than Dolby Vision. And this is the issue. So that's why I'm not a big fan of Dolby Vision. There's no consistency. No. If you get a Sony, and in that case, that was the G2, versus the A90J, if you guys are wondering. The A90J, king of TVs, Dolby Vision looks terrible.
A90J, king of TVs, won the shootout, heat sink, all of this stuff does not matter because it does not get bright enough. It doesn't get bright enough. It doesn't matter that it's an A90J or a G2. These are the top of the line OLEDs, but they were not made for HDR. But the marketing got all of y'all believing that it's the best HDR machine out there, right? QD-OLED just took the cake just like that overnight. Because what? These devices were not made for HDR. Perfect blacks are beautiful. Never said that OLEDs weren't beautiful displays, but I paid the price of admission years ago. Years ago, all right? And for me, for HDR, where we are now, it's lackluster. And you're not gonna see HDR at its glory unless you have a high nit display. Let's keep it going.
G2, it doesn't look great either. But here you have HDR10, and I think the S95B looks just like all the other two. It doesn't fall apart. Classy, what are your thoughts in your examination of Dolby Vision? Because that's why I'm not a big fan.
Well, what I can tell you is how your Dolby Vision just looked on the LG with the sun that basically wasn't there. If you change the grade on the HDR10, I think it was the 4,000. It'll look just like that. But when you use 1,000, 2,000, 10,000, it doesn't. Or if you turn on dynamic tone mapping, then
there you
it's back to the yellow sun again. So
and what do
it's
people
just
tell
the
us?
way that the LG is tone mapping.
Right. But on Dolby Vision, you can't turn on tone mapping, right?
Yeah.
So,
But you could try Dolby Vision Cinema Home and see if that's different. But yeah, there's inconsistencies in all of it. Basically, is what we're now seeing. And like last year, dynamic tone mapping on the LG pretty consistent in what it did. This year, it's not. They've completely redid their dynamic tone mapping.
And plus, I think we always assume that something's filmed in Dolby Vision if it has Dolby Vision.
Yeah, and do you guys want to explain that? I mean, you guys want to explain that? Like movies, are movies being made with Dolby Vision in mind, or are they filmed? Like, there's no such thing as like you can't film them in Dolby Vision. It's a form. It's metadata.
Batman in a Dolby theater was phenomenal.
So what you do is you capture it in a raw format that has the widest dynamic range possible, and then you use whatever tools, Dolby Vision tools, to then take that raw and put in post what you need. You want more reds, so you start grading it, add more reds, whatever you want. So Dolby Vision gives you a larger palette to work from in both terms of color, BT 2020, and luminance, so you could grade it at a higher luminance. And this is something that will bring Stacy Spears on, because his disc, he graded for Dolby Vision, but Dolby Vision is post-production tools. It is not captured in Dolby Vision at the lens, so to speak. You take as much of the data as you can, and then you take that and you kind of move into Dolby Vision.
And then the TV that you have has to be able to take that information and do something with it. So if your TV isn't that good anyways, it's not going to be like, oh, look at that difference between Dolby Vision and HDR10. You can't. That's why people comment constantly about Samsung's not having Dolby Vision, and it's like, any of you guys, would you rather have a mid-tier Sony with Dolby Vision or a top Samsung without? And I think
B. I know you didn't just miss this whole conversation. You're in the live stream. It's not a mid-tier Sony. It's a Sony A90J that won the shootout that looks terrible in Dolby Vision. It ain't got nothing to do with a mid-tier TV. It has nothing to do with that, G. All right? That's an A90J that's struggling with it. It does not get bright enough. There's mid-tier LCDs that Dolby Vision looks great on. All right? Because they get brighter than these OLEDs. Let's keep it moving.
Pretty certain that all of you guys would be wanting the TV that is a better TV in general, right?
Well, this is where I'm even debating. The best TVs don't need Dolby Vision. Dolby Vision, you just saw that, right? Dolby Vision holds it down.
Right.
Yeah, so but
the best TVs do need Dolby Vision, G. Nah, the best OLEDs don't need Dolby Vision because they can't pull it off.
We're learning that right now, where over the years we had this promise that Dolby Vision was going to be this. Remember this 4,000 nit,
right?
More color, and I think we've all kind of seen like, even Dolby Vision gaming. Now we're like, well, if I can get more color on the Samsung, I would forego. But that's
Dolby Vision gaming on what? An OLED, right? Because that's all you're judging it with, an OLED. All of your problems with Dolby Vision starts and ends with your OLED. Y'all are going to live and die on this OLED hill. I mean, seriously, you're going to live and die on this OLED hill. All right? You cannot pull 4,000 nits out of an 800 nit display. You're not going to get 4K 60 FPS on a PS3. It's not that difficult to understand. You need brightness as far as TVs are concerned. Let's keep it moving.
The questions that I get are, okay, Dolby Vision, you say, Brandon, that Dolby Vision is or will be the industry standard, which maybe it is now and it will continue to be, but there's really no other great option to choose from. But at the same time, if the TVs can't utilize it or can't make it outperform normal HDR 10, 10 plus, whatever, the point is it's not necessary for Samsung to have it, though I would love to have them get on board and have it eventually. But the point is, like, if you say no Dolby Vision, no TV, that just sounds stupid to me.
Why does that sound stupid, G? Why does that sound stupid? Right? People are saying no 120 hertz, no TV. Right? Hardcore gamers, no 120 hertz, no TV. No 2.1, no TV. No local dimming with variable refresh rate, no TV. No Dolby Vision, no TV. Because there's actually people out here that has seen Dolby Vision and that enjoy Dolby Vision every day on their non-OLED TVs and has seen Dolby Vision on brighter displays. And it looks way better than it does on those OLEDs. Facts.
That's just, to me, it's just like, pick a good TV and don't worry about one or the other, like, you know, because there's plenty of TVs that have Dolby Vision that look like crap.
Well, it's almost like the placebo
Plenty of OLEDs that got Dolby Vision that look like crap. Get it right.
of you wanted HDMI 2.1 with 48 versus 40. It's like you're happy it's there, but you're like, we're not using it. And then this many years later, we're still not using it. As far as the Dolby Vision, we're still not like, oh my God, that's Dolby Vision versus that's HDR10.
Now you're not, because all the thing you're looking at is an OLED pimping. Yeah, I can see the difference clearly, easily. Dolby Vision destroys HDR10. Dolby Vision destroys HDR10. You realize that these people that make these movies, right? They spend hours, days, weeks grading in Dolby Vision, right? Grading it in Dolby Vision on a scene by scene, frame by frame basis, so it looks perfectly. And you're talking about HDR10 looks better. Static metadata, dynamic tone mapping, right? You'd rather your TV direct your movie than the directors direct your movie. That's why it's called dynamic tone mapping, because it changes on a scene by scene basis, right? Your TV does not know what the movie's supposed to look like. It's guessing what it's supposed to look like. That's why dynamic tone mapping's inconsistent. Every scene, dynamic tone mapping, maybe it's supposed to look like this. I don't know. Maybe it's supposed to look like that. You're saying that's better than Dolby Vision. You're saying the A9 Gen 5 is a better director of movies than the actual directors of the movies, the colorists, the people that produce the movies, that are actually grading these on a scene-by-scene basis. You'd rather have HDR10 and dynamic tone mapping, all because of your OLED bias. The OLED cannot pull it off, G. That's the only thing with it, man. It's not that hard. Like I said, y'all gonna live and die on this OLED hill, and that time passed a long time ago. All right, OLEDs are phenomenal, great, perfect black displays. It looks great. I've owned OLEDs for years, but when it comes to HDR and where the industry is going, like that Sony prototype, 10,000 nits, that's the destination. You're not gonna hit that on your OLED, G. Just not gonna happen.
So I think base HDR10 looks phenomenal. So
this
but Dolby Vision never really did what it was supposed to.
Right.
Yeah, the problem is all discs are going to be Dolby Vision 2.9, according to Stacey Spears.
That ain't got shit to do with it.
Dolby Vision 4.0 has a lot more tools for graders to use to be better, but we're not seeing that in content yet, at least not much.
You're not seeing it on your OLED.
So that would only be on the streaming side. And then even 4.0, if they use it, it's still backwards compatible with 2.9. So if a show uses 4.0, it doesn't mean they're using the tools that are available.
It does not matter. At the end of the day, if you don't have brightness, you're not going to be enjoying Dolby Vision the way it was intended for you to see.
It's just like in a video game that uses Unreal Engine. It doesn't mean they're going to make it look amazing because they might not use all the tools that are in that engine. So, like Sweet Tooth is the only show that I have found, and I have dug and dug and dug. It is the only one where the Dolby Vision grade at least comes close to the HDR10 grade.
Yep. And okay, so let's take Sweet Tooth aside because it looks like they actually focused on it. I think this is a great question. Thanks for the super chat, AJ412. What do you think is causing this issue with Dolby Vision? Isn't it supposed to have standards to adhere to? Love all the recent content, by the way. Okay, so here's my theory, and I'll let Classy finish up. The standards that the TVs adhere to is not necessarily the same as the standards the creator adheres to, right? So the creator, they have a Dolby Vision tool, and then they put it into production. It's end-to-end Dolby Vision Studio. Okay, so that's one. Let's assume they have everything. But the TV guys, if you notice, it's all over the place. And so the question is, why don't the TVs have a standard? So let's talk about Sony. They have Dolby Vision Dark, Dolby Vision Bright. Dolby Vision Dark is color accurate, and maybe it's supposed to be that dark. But even for me, in a dark room, it's too dark. But then bright is way too bright. I lose detail. And then LG Cinema is supposed to give you a bit more light. It's not as dark as the Sony, but is it accurate? What I mean, what is it supposed to look like? If I look at HDR10, then to me, HDR10 looks closer to LG Dolby Vision, just Cinema, right? Cinema Home is for a bright room, so we won't talk Dolby Vision Cinema Home. So Dolby Vision Cinema and LG looks closest to HDR10. So here you have Sony, which is a Hollywood name, a Hollywood standard from cameras to film to everything, and they do this. And so where's the standards? Sony has so much clout, they do their own thing. I don't think anyone can force Sony, LG, TCL. I mean, TCL is THX Gaming, right? People are just doing their thing and calling it whatever they want to.
What the hell?
And then the consumers are thinking, oh, Dolby Vision, and they stick to the word Dolby Vision when they have no clue what they're buying into. So I don't think there is a standard. The standard's on the software post-production side. As far as the TV makers, they should just revoke Dolby Vision completely for all the TV. All the TV makers should have their Dolby Vision license revoked.
That's some bullshit. That's some bullshit, man. FOMO, you know that I know that you know that I know that you know that's some bullshit. Straight up. All of your Dolby Vision problems are stemming from using OLED. That's the problem. If Xbox Series X, right, if they make a game in 4K 60 FPS for Xbox Series X and you try to play it on original OG Xbox One, it's not going to be 4K 60. The industry has left the Xbox OG original Xbox. If you want 4K 60, if you want better textures, if you want better graphics, then you need to go get a Series X. Simple. The industry has left OLED. And y'all sitting up here with this OLED bias because y'all stuck in a time loop of OLED. The industry has left that a long time ago. If Stacey Spears saw this, he'd probably be shaking his head right now.
High dynamic range video is about being able to more closely represent the amount of light we see outside every day in the real world. And it means that for TVs, normally they were producing 100 nits for a typical display, or maybe 45 nits for a theater. And now we're talking about doing hundreds of nits in the theater and thousands of nits on monitors and television displays.
First, I guess I should use the term SDR, which is standard dynamic range. So everything you've been watching today, you're going to start hearing called as SDR. And so HDR, I would describe it as giving it a three-dimensional look without the glasses. Everything has more depth. It feels more real. So I first experienced HDR from Dolby 1.5 to 2 years ago. Dolby was doing a roadshow going around visiting various companies and showing off the potential of HDR. And the first time I saw it, I thought it was cooked and fake, because you saw SDR right next to HDR and you had no control over the setup and didn't know what you were seeing. And so since then, I've actually had personal time to play with HDR, and I now believe it wasn't cooked back then. It just, because the difference is so dramatic. And in fact, I think the way they present SDR to people should sort of be controlled. You should show people SDR first, well-calibrated, high-quality content with the HDR display covered. And once they agree that it looks good, then you uncover the HDR display so they can actually see the visual difference. Because when you show HDR and SDR side by side, the SDR just looks fake. It looks flat and uninteresting.
I've been lucky enough to see HDR content several times. First, I was able to experience it with the Dolby Pulsar display, and it was absolutely amazing. It was the most saturated, vibrant content I had ever seen. And the gamut on the Pulsar isn't significantly wider than DCI-P3, but because of the intensity that they're able to provide with the Dolby Vision technology, it's just a saturated, colorful experience unlike anything I'd ever seen, and it got me really excited to see what it looks like when we get to the consumer displays.
Hello, We're here today with HDTV Test. My name's Rob Taylor. I'm TV Product Manager here at Panasonic UK, and we're going to do a little bit of a role reversal today. I'm going to actually interview Vincent Teo, who, as you know, is a professional TV reviewer and a professional TV calibrator. So, Vincent, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rob. Right? As you probably know by now, I always enjoy a bit of role reversal. And here what we have is two Panasonic GX800 LED LCD televisions, which is one of the most affordable TVs on the market from the Japanese brand that actually carry Dolby Vision support. As you probably know from watching my YouTube channel, I've been an advocate of dynamic metadata technology, especially in terms of Dolby Vision. And what it allows is frame-by-frame or even scene-by-scene metadata so that the display can actually optimize the picture on screen to present an experience that matches the content creator's intent most closely. What we have here is basically two 58-inch GX800, and I believe that the retail price is around £899, and maybe at Black Friday time, this will drop even further. We are showing two clips from the same content, and this is basically glass being molded by fire. And if you can see on your right here, this is the HDR10 static metadata version, and this is the Dolby Vision proprietary dynamic metadata version. If you can manage to see past YouTube's compression and maybe even my camera's limited dynamic range, you may be able to tell that the flames here are being blown out, and you can barely see the distinction between the flame and also the shape of the glass that is being molded. Whereas on the Dolby Vision presentation, you can clearly see very distinct outline of the flame and also the shape of the glass. Another thing that I actually want to point out, certainly from watching here, is the richer colors and the richer gamma that is provided by Dolby Vision. One key advantage of dynamic metadata over static metadata is that, as you can see from the difference between these two GX800 here, on your right displaying static metadata HDR10, on your left displaying dynamic metadata Dolby Vision, is that with static metadata, there's really only one set of value that is applied throughout the entire piece of content or the entire movie. So there's, realistically speaking, only one set of tone curve across the entire movie, regardless of whether the scene is bright or dark. Whereas with dynamic metadata, such as Dolby Vision, what the TV can do is to read the dynamic metadata, which is embedded into the content on a frame-by-frame or scene-by-scene basis, and then adjust the tone curve as per needed so that in brighter scenes, the specular highlight detail will be maintained, whereas in darker scenes, it doesn't need to maintain specular highlight detail, and maybe it can actually generate a richer gamma. But from the difference that you can hopefully see on camera today, to my eyes, the GX800 with Dolby Vision being played just retain more specular highlight detail in terms of the shapes of the flames and also the difference between the glass and also the flame. Not only that, it also maintained a richer, I call it gamma, but in HDR terms, I should call it EOTF or electro-optical transfer function. It just presented a richer EOTF with like a darker and inkier and deeper areas, to create more depth and just a generically richer, more immersive picture experience than HDR10 that cannot alter its tone curve on a scene-by-scene or frame-by-frame basis. I'm here in Dolby's grading suite in Soho, London, and what I'm standing beside is basically one of the most beautiful displays that I've actually seen. This is the Dolby Pulsar, which is capable of 4,000 nits, and this is actually the first time I've actually seen it, believe it or not. And beside it, you have the PRN 4200 Grade 1 reference monitor, and maybe you can't actually see my face because I had to lower the exposure of the camera so much to be able to adequately expose and capture the highlight detail here, so I'm in the dark. But if I step aside here, hopefully you can see that on the screen here, these are basically just a monitor where the colorist will be grading the HDR footage and also maybe the SDR trim pass using DaVinci Resolve. And I'm actually quite familiar with the software, and I happen to use it to grade all my YouTube videos. So what I'm going to stand here and talk to you about is basically the creative process that Dolby has come up with for their Dolby Vision proprietary dynamic metadata technology. So what the colorist will normally do is to grade HDR using the Dolby Pulsar as reference. Once the colorist has finished the HDR grading, it will be passed through Dolby Vision engine analysis, and then the colorist will perform further adjustments using the PRM monitor, which is calibrated to a peak white of 100 nits. They will be doing an SDR trim pass, and all these different metadata will be embedded inside one single package, which will be delivered to, let's say, the likes of Netflix, the likes of any post-production studio, for them to actually get out an SDR version, an SD version, HD version, or let's say HDR10 version, to deliver to different types of TVs that consumers have on the market.
Let's jump into that movie we used last time, Pacific Rim Uprising. I feel this is a properly graded HDR movie. The first scene is that officer, right? You see how he's standing there with that bright light behind him. What's interesting is Dolby Vision also corrects for color. The creator had a certain color in mind, and the TVs kind of do their own thing with color. And as you see with the Sony, it's quite drastic, right? The Sony didn't have much of those rich skin tones. With Dolby Vision though, boom, skin tones are back. Now the Hisense actually had too much skin tone, right? A little bit too rich. Remember my complaint, it sometimes pushes red. Well, Dolby Vision brings it right back. It doesn't allow the TV to do its own thing with color. It gives the TV the exact color coordinates to process, so that even if it's not that well calibrated, hey, Dolby Vision's helping out here. In this next scene, the heads-up display overlay, right? All that information. What Dolby Vision does is it helps bring out shadow detail. So you see here that the Sony may have been a little too bright around her face. It brings up that shadow detail back. And whereas the Hisense may be a little too dark, her face is a little bit better lit. But most importantly, all that lit area, that actual HUD, the heads-up display in Dolby Vision is just a little bit brighter. There's that better contrast around her shirt, right? Where there is some of that lighting effect. In Dolby Vision, it's just a little bit brighter. It definitely looks better. Dolby Vision to the rescue, obviously. And this explains why Sony TV owners love Dolby Vision. I see that the drastic improvement for Sony is a bit greater than in the Hisense H9G. As a matter of fact, the color in the Sony improved a lot. But let's go to a more challenging scene. Let's see if Dolby Vision can save the Sony. In this scene, you can see that the sun is setting and the sun is a little bit bloomed, right? You don't see the clear outline of the sun. It should be a little bit clearer, as you can see in both the LG and the TCL. It's a touch clearer. Well, in Dolby Vision, dun, 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 for the Hisense H9G, yes, there's an improvement, but why not the Sony? And that's quite simple to explain. Sony doesn't have enough dimming zones. Remember, the Hisense has just under 200 dimming zones, right? Well, the Sony has less than 40. It's like, what? There's only so much you could do without the dimming zones, right? So Dolby Vision here helped the color, yes, but it couldn't help define the outline of that sunset. But in the Hisense, it did. Well, what about the TCL? Remember how great the TCL did its own tone mapping? As good as it is on its own, how much better is it with Dolby Vision, right? But this time you're utilizing all those contrast zones and mini LEDs. Dolby Vision fine-tunes that luminance control. And lastly, let's talk about the TV's own tone mapping. And in this case, I want to look at the LG. So this scene in particular, LG is actually tone mapping it wrong. So in the 10,000 nit content, the other three TVs, you could see the sunset, the actual sun, but the LG with dynamic tone mapping on, the sun literally disappears. It's like just a haze, right?
The real thing here is the luminance. So this frame of content has a peak luminance of 9,788 nits.
Whoa.
So that's almost all the way at the top of the range that HDR content can carry. You actually see it in the histogram here, this peak for the sun way up here at the top. That's the sun.
Nice. So eventually there'll be 10,000 nit displays and it'll be perfect for that?
Yeah, we think so. And so that's actually outside the range of what the what the quantum dot TV can show too, but because it has a higher luminance range, it doesn't have to tone map the sun down too much, right? It can actually show there's a difference here and here. Whereas with the lower peak luminance for the OLED, it needs to really tone map those 10,000 nit values way down into something it can show, and that's where you sort of lose some information there.
So this scene in particular, LG is actually tone mapping it wrong. So in the 10,000 nit content, the other three TVs, you could see the sunset, the actual sun, but the LG with dynamic tone mapping on, the sun literally disappears. It's like just a haze, right? So obviously, if we give Dolby Vision a chance to help out the LG, oh, look, of course, the sun comes back. No surprise. But also, what if I brought that 10,000 nit HDR10 down to 600 nits of HDR10? Just static metadata. But look, even when the amount of light is within range of the LG at 600 nits, the LG simply did not tone map this correctly. And that's with dynamic tone mapping on. Let me turn it off. Let's see what happens. You guys will be surprised because a lot of people are saying, oh, dynamic tone mapping is great. I wish I had it for the older LGs. Well, check this out. Do you really? Not every scene benefits from dynamic tone mapping. And as a matter of fact, this scene in particular, it actually made things worse, right? So Dolby Vision dynamic metadata is the safe way to go.
Yeah, that sounds like a totally different message than FOMO had right in that live stream, because he understands Dolby Vision very well. All right, that was the real FOMO. This new FOMO, that dude that was in that live stream, I don't know who the hell that is. That dude is a bot. All right, that's a bot. If you want Dolby Vision, right, you need Luminance. And these are the people that y'all are depending on to make buying decisions. People that don't even understand Dolby Vision or how it works. These are the people that you're depending on to make buying decisions, right? People that are just taking TVs, putting them side by side and giving you their subjective opinion about it. All right. I remember when you could go to the store, all right, back in the day, you could go to Sears, you could go to Hi-Fi Buys, you could go to Circuit City, even Best Buy. You could go in there and you could ask for the remote for any TV in the store, and they would give it to you. You could take the remote, you could go in there, you could go through the settings, you could do whatever you wanted to do. If you wanted to hook a Blu-ray up to it, if you wanted to play a movie, they would let you do it, right? You could do it. Nowadays, you can't do that. Now they got all these demos and people are making YouTube channels just doing shit that you used to be able to just go in the store and do, right? They're making channels, just making videos with the remote control, doing some shit that you could just do back in the day. You know what I mean? You could just go in the store and do that. And now people are making channels doing that. But the problem with that is, right, most of the people out here doing this don't understand the technologies. They're just regular people, man. Ain't none of these people no experts. You know what I mean? They just like you and me. There's no difference between them and you. All right? If you go out there tomorrow and you buy S95B and you put it on a YouTube channel and say, I just bought this TV, this is what it does, you're going to be in the algorithm. It ain't no different, G. There is no difference. All right? The problem is, people are not doing the research, they're not doing the knowledge, and they don't know what the hell they're selling to you. They do not know what they're selling to you, man. If you want Dolby Vision, right? If you want HDR10 plus, you need Luminance. The days of OLED are gone. Facts. That's what it is. That's why the real flagships, right? The real flagships, the real top of the line TVs for Sony is the Z series, right? The real flagship for Samsung is the 900 series, because if you want real Dolby Vision, if you want real HDR10 plus, you need Luminance. They say it all the time, right? Sony, Samsung, they put their best technology in their 8K models. Well, why aren't those models OLEDs? Because they don't get bright enough. Because they don't get bright enough. And they cost twice as much as those OLEDs. You're going to pay $4,000 for the A95K. You're going to pay $8,000 for the Z9K. Why is that? Because that's where we are. That's where HDR is. Luminance, brightness. That's what it takes for you to get that photorealistic HDR, right? OLEDs used to be the niche product. It used to be niche. Now it's cheap to buy them. The new niche product is the real Dolby Vision, the real HDR 10 Plus. That's the niche product. That's the product that costs $8,000, $7,000. And if you want to see real HDR, you got to be able to pay the price of admission.
What's up, everybody? So, as you can probably tell from my last couple of videos, I picked up a 75-inch Master Series Z9J from Sony. 8K with the new XR processor. And to make this review kind of short, it's the best TV I think I've ever seen, and definitely the best TV that I've owned. And currently right now I have a Z8H, a Z9D, which everyone knows about the Z9D, and the backlight master drive and how great of a TV that is. There's not much. I mean, I didn't think that anything could beat the Z8H that I have. You know, being 8K, super bright. This thing blows it out of the water. New processor, it's brighter, blacks are better. Sony put everything into this TV. And you may ask, well, why didn't you wait to get the Z9K with the backlight master drive? Maybe eventually, but I got such a good deal on this TV, it was just impossible to pass up. I had to turn off Dolby Vision because it was so bright in a dark room that it was just blinding. Another one. I had to turn off Dolby Vision because it was so bright in a dark room that it was just blinding. Another one. I had to turn off Dolby Vision because it was so bright in a dark room that it was just blinding. And another one. I had to turn off Dolby Vision because it was so bright in a dark room that it was just blinding. I mean, the detail, as you can see, is just absolutely stunning. Colors, spot on. It's the best TV I've ever seen.
Okay, so hello out there, YouTube world. Here I have some people call me crazy, some people call me a lot of things, but anyway, I have an 85-inch Z9J Sony Master Series. The depth is crazy. The LED also looks more realistic. While the OLED looks great, it looks like a painting. It's like, that's the only way I can explain. It looks like a painting. It looks like a nice, fine painting. It doesn't look natural. Now on the LED, it looks very natural, very realistic. Maybe some people don't like that. It looks too realistic, but I love it. So I bought this 85-inch Z9J, 8K LED TV. Supposedly it has great black levels for an LED, great dimming control, the new XR processor. And I'm selling my 83-inch A90J. It's already sold. A gentleman bought it locally. He'll be coming to pick it up. Well, I'll be bringing it to him, but he'll be coming to assist me with transporting it to his house. And the sale of this helped me because I still got a good amount since it's calibrated, fairly new. Got a good amount of money. Put that money towards this purchase. You see how the snow looks white on the Z9J while on the A90J it looks bluish. These are both using the same Dolby Vision settings, same motion settings, same picture settings. You see how it's bluish on the A90J, but on the Z9J it's white the way it's supposed to be. This Z9J, look at that. Look at the depth on the Z9J. Look at the penguins compared to the OLED. Look how real that looks and natural. And look at the OLED. So I'm just trying to show you guys the difference between a 85-inch Z9J 8K Sony LED and the 83-inch Sony A90J OLED. Look at that. Look at the pink. Look at the Z9J. Look how natural and real those colors look. Look how vibrant. Look how white it is. Look at the depth. Well, you have this overall bluish tint. This is calibrated, by the way. Calibrated by Dwayne Davis. D Nice from AVS Forums. And it looks good. The A90J looks outstanding. But this, Sony did something crazy with this Z9J. Look at it looks almost 3D. I don't know if you're seeing what I'm seeing.
And so HDR, I would describe it as giving it a three-dimensional look without the glasses. Everything has more depth. It feels more real.
This effect of really having lifelike brightness can't be understated in terms of the viewing experience. It goes from being the difference really of looking at what you know is just kind of television to almost like you're looking out the window at an actual outdoor scene, right? The specular reflections off of shiny surfaces, the way the sunlight glints, the way backlight happens, all of this with high dynamic range, with very high brightness, is extremely compelling in terms of visual experience.
This Z9J, look at that. Look at the depth on the Z9J. Look at the penguins compared to the OLED. Look how real that looks and natural. And look at the OLED. So I'm just trying to show you guys the difference between a 85-inch Z9J 8K Sony LED and the 83-inch Sony A90J OLED. Look at that. Look at the pink. Look at the Z9J. Look how natural and real those colors look. Look how vibrant. Look how white it is. Look at the depth. Well, you have this overall bluish tint. This is calibrated, by the way. Calibrated by Dwayne Davis. D Nice from AVS Forums. And it looks good. The A90J looks outstanding. But this, Sony did something crazy with this Z9J.
So who's really living in the past? Who's really living in the past? And I get all these people, man. All you do is talk about Vizio TVs. All you do is talk about Vizio. You don't review any other TVs, right? The reason that I bought the Vizio TV is because I understand the technologies, right? The Vizio PQX has the best of both worlds, HDR10 Plus and Dolby Vision, and one of the brightest LCDs ever made. Not to mention all of the gaming features that it has. You're talking about one of the brightest LCDs with Dolby Vision gaming, with an actual game mode for Dolby Vision on a TV that you can actually appreciate Dolby Vision on because it gets bright enough, right? The only LCD that actually has a local dimming algorithm that works with VRR, right? Flawlessly. No problem. That's why I've been rocking with the Vizio TVs. Because it has HDR10 Plus, Dolby Vision gaming, one of the brightest LCDs ever made for less than half of the price of Sony's flagship and Samsung's flagship. Less than half. It truly is the best tech for less. The best of the best tech for less, right? That's why I've been rocking with the Vizio TVs. And you got all these reviewers out here, right? They're too good for Vizio, right? Nobody wants to touch Vizio, but the company that put the QD in the OLED that they're all crazy about, Vizio wasn't too good for them to use for their demonstrations, to use at their display booths at SID and CES? Riddle me that.
And we see that the peaks are very, very sharply and well defined. So now your green subpixel is going to have a green color that looks like that. Your red is going to have a red that looks like that, and your blue is going to have a blue that looks like that. Very sharp, very perfect primaries. And we can see that when we look at one of those sets. So for example, if we come over here, take a look at one of these white areas, which has all three colors, again, we can see that we've got that perfect red, green, blue in terms of color. Now, if we look at an OLED set, which is using an alternative type of lighting technology, we can see that, again, we're back to having this very messy primary system.
Yeah, so here we're showing a demonstration about HDR content. And we wanted to show, give people a sense of how HDR content works. And so in this demonstration, we have a Vizio P Quantum again on top and a 2018 OLED on the bottom. So I'm trying to think what year it was.
We're living in the future.
2014, we showed a 2000 nit professional reference monitor that we developed with Dolby at this very show, and people thought that was totally crazy. They thought, this is nuts. You'll never have a consumer product that's 2000 nits, right? I mean, like, forget about it. Why even make this? Why even make this content ecosystem, right? And here we have a 3000 nit TV that's coming out in a couple of months.
And at that time, it was a water-cooled display,
Right.
so it required water cooling.
Right.
Now we have the technology and the capability to get these sets up to 3,000 plus nits, like you see here with the Vizio P-Series Quantum X, and not water-cooled, and a beautiful picture quality, and just amazing experience. So it's like you're looking out a window.
If Vincent could review a PQX, he would gladly tell you how it's shitting on all these other TVs.
Hello everyone, Vincent Teo from HDTV Test here. I'm here at Vizio's show booth at CES 2020 in Las Vegas, and I'm standing beside two extremely exciting TVs from the American brand. Now on my right here is the new 2020 P-Series Quantum X Full Array Local Dimming LED LCD television, and on my left would be Vizio's first OLED TV. Now let's first talk about the Full Array Local Dimming LED LCD. It will have 792 zones for the 85-inch version. This is the first time the company has actually introduced an 85-inch model within its P-Series Quantum X LED LCD range, and this will be adding to the 65-inch model and also the 75-inch model. What is impressive about this TV is going to be its quantum dot color filter, and it will allow this TV to achieve an extremely high color volume. In terms of REC 2020 coverage, it will be around 85% for the 85-inch model, and it will also be capable of a peak brightness of up to 3000 nits for the 85-inch version and a full field brightness of 800 nits. A combination of such high peak brightness and also such large color space coverage will combine to give you that impressive color volume that only LED LCD can give. Even though OLED has per pixel illumination control, they cannot actually achieve this sort of color volume to give you that sort of searing brightness, the searing colors that this TV is capable of. Now, let's talk about other features of this TV then. In terms of HDR support, it will be supporting all the 4 major HDR formats on the market, namely static metadata HDR10, hybrid log gamma HLG, and in terms of dynamic metadata, it will be supporting both the HDR10 Plus open standard dynamic metadata format and also the Dolby Vision premium proprietary dynamic metadata formats, making this one of the first TVs in the USA to support all 4 HDR formats. After seeing these TVs, I think what I'm gutted about is that these TVs are only available in the USA. They are not actually available in the UK and Europe. So, I mean, last year's PQX was available for about maybe $1,500 for the 65-inch version, which is insane value. So, I think, you viewers in the USA are extremely lucky to get this brand, this sort of level of picture quality for such a price.
So if you made it this far in the video and you're asking yourself, what in the hell did all this have to do with upgrading to QD-OLED, right? It has everything to do with it. Everything. First, you need to understand my perspective, all right? And that is the perspective of someone that understands the technologies, all right? Because if you don't understand what you're buying, if you don't know why you're buying what you're buying, then you're going to waste a lot of money. All right. This is Value Tech Sense, where I show you how to get the best tech for less. And right now is the worst time for you to be buying into QD-OLED. Am I excited for it? Yes. Am I $2,200 55-inch excited for it? No. $3,000 65-inch excited for it? No. $4,000 Sony excited for it? Hell no. Right? You're going to pay the most money for the worst version of QD-OLED. If you've never owned an OLED before, right now is the best time for you to buy an OLED. All right. If you've never owned an OLED, that is a significant upgrade to someone that's never owned one. You're going to get the best version of OLED technology for the best prices right now. But QD-OLED, no, don't do it. All right. Do not buy into QD-OLED. All right. Wait. All right. Wait. See, I'm going to get a QD-OLED, maybe 4th, 5th generation. All right. Samsung Display, they want to make money. All right. LG Display, they sold their displays to Sony, to Vizio, to everyone. What do you think Samsung Display is going to do? They're going to sell those panels to everyone. They want to make money, right? Wait till there's more competition in the market, and then, right, you're going to get a better version of it for a better price. How many non-QLED LCDs are there in the market? I'll wait. So now that you only have 2 QD-OLEDs, right? Samsung and Sony does not care about competing for price. All right. So Samsung's basically competing with no one, right? They're competing with no one. Sony's going to overcharge you for it, and Samsung's going to overcharge you for it because the only competition is Sony. And you're going to get the worst version of QD-OLED. All right. 4th, 5th generation, when you got QD-OLEDs all throughout the market, yes, then it'll be time to do it. Then it will be tried and proven the way QLEDs are tried and proven. It's too new, too expensive to buy into right now. All right. If I were you, I would wait. But if you're one of those people that can't wait, right? You can't wait. All right. A little Value Tech Sense is a little too much for you. That money's just burning a hole in your pocket, right? You're willing to spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 to be a crash test dummy for Samsung Display. Go right on ahead and do it. But before you do it, I would wait for more objective reviews to come out. All right. More objective, comprehensive reviews versus all this sensationalism. The use of exciting or shocking stories or language at the expense of accuracy in order to provoke public interest or excitement. I.e., it's the greatest thing ever. Hit the link. I.e., it's the best thing I've ever seen. Hit the link. Right? Never mind the fact that Samsung, right, they rushed this product out. Forget that. Hit the link. Right? Never mind the fact that nobody even knew if Samsung was dropping a WOLED or a QD-OLED. They just put it in stores because they were counting on people, right? They were counting on people to go out there, buy it, and glow about it. And that's what people are doing with no knowledge, no experience, nothing. Hit the link, right? And you're going to spend the most money for the worst version of QD-OLED if you go out and buy it right now. Never mind the fact that those TVs, right, they struggled just to get the QD-OLED working without burning up the TVs. Forget all that, right? Because most of these people that you're relying on to make buying decisions have no clue about it. They just went to the store, picked it up, and just glowing about it. They have no idea because they don't do the research. They don't do the knowledge, right? And people want to call me toxic. People want to call me toxic, right? Last year, people was making videos, right? OLED's the best thing ever. Hit the link. All to come back a year later, OLED's not the best thing ever. Hit the link, right? The TV that was the shit last year ain't shit this year, and I'm toxic. I'm toxic, right? How you go out there and sell people on shit, right? Sell people on shit and then come back a year later and tell them the shit you sold them on ain't shit no more. And I'm toxic, right? The Vizio PQX was the shit in 2021. It's still the shit in 2022, and it's still gonna be the shit in 2023. That ain't toxic, that's just real. But I'm toxic, right? The most toxic thing on YouTube is these YouTubers, man. I get tired of seeing people ask me over and over. There's people out here that actually buy TVs, get them home, are happy with them, right? They're happy with their TVs. Then they watch these YouTube videos and all of a sudden they're unhappy with their TVs because something just, this one's just a little sharper. This one's just a little bit brighter, you know? Look at this one beside this one. There's just a little bit more color. And all of a sudden they hate their TV. That is toxic. That's toxic. All right? That's toxic. There's too many people out here watching YouTube TV videos more than they're watching their TV. All right? You need to watch your TV. If you buy a TV and you're happy with it, be happy with it. Go watch a movie. Go play some games. Right? Stop depending on people to make buying decisions for you, especially when they don't even understand what they're selling to you. All right. I'm not saying don't watch the videos. Watch the videos all you want. But the most important thing is that you do your own research and know what it is that you want before you buy it. And when you buy it, be happy with it. All right. I'm no different from you. All right. No difference. You can look all this stuff up yourself. Right. I'm on YouTube making sure you guys make informed buying decisions. To me, that's priceless. All right? That's priceless. That's worth way more than these little pennies on a dollar. People are getting in these links. And people out here spending real money on these TVs. Right? Too lazy to do some basic research. And the worst part about all of this, is FOMO. All right? FOMO is one of the most knowledgeable, well-read, well-spoken YouTubers on YouTube. All right? I mean, damn, homie. 2 years ago, you was the man, homie. What the fuck happened to you? Those coffee breaks that you used to do, those coffee breaks, some of those videos were God tier. God tier, prophetic in some cases, man. I used to really rock with those videos, right? And I just can't figure out why you would give all of that up. For what? To play in the kiddie pool when you used to sit at the grown-ups table? I mean, you can't beat them, join them, right? Right? You can't beat them, join them. Let's push OLED down everybody's neck, right? So they can hit those links. I just don't get it, G. You know what I'm saying? You used to be one of my favorite YouTubers, all right? You know what I mean? You looked out for the consumer, right? I remember watching Stop the FOMO when Stop the FOMO actually stood for what the name suggests, right? You gave all that up for what? For all this theatricality and deception. Powerful agents to the uninitiated. But we are initiated, aren't we, FOMO? Members of the League of Keeping It 100. And you betrayed us. but you're so toxic. I'm necessary toxic. Oh man, this is too fun, man. I'm gonna stop, man. I'm gonna go ahead and end this video, right? I'm gonna end this video with some more toxic, all right? I'm gonna end this video with the FOMO that I used to fuck with, right? The one that didn't mind a little quote unquote toxicity for the greater good of the consumer. Till the next video.
Just talk about quantum dots, because a lot of people hear quantum dots or QLED. What is the most common implementation that consumers are seeing with quantum dots right now?
Yeah, so the only implementation consumers see today is what we call QDEF, or quantum dot enhancement film. This is an optical film which is placed in the backlight of an LCD TV or an LCD display. So it could be a screen on your desktop monitor, could be a tablet, could be a notebook. We have implementations in all of these. And so what that quantum dot enhancement film does is it creates the perfect backlight for your LCD, perfect red, green, blue spectrum that's ideally matched to the color space that the manufacturer is intending to represent to you with his product.
And what happens when it's not perfect? So obviously the enhancement film gives it a perfect light. So an imperfect light, how is it worse or different?
Yeah, so what you might see, for example, with a common backlight structure, or which is typically referred to as a white LED backlight structure, what you're going to see here is you're not going to get the purity of reds and greens that you would get with the quantum dot film. This is because white LEDs generally have a very broad yellow sort of peak within their optical spectrum. And this yellow peak basically puts most of the light energy in a place where it's not either red or green, it's in between. And as a result, the quality of the red and green light, which you actually see at the front of the screen, is rather poor. And a lot of that yellow light, which is created by the white LED, is actually wasted in that color filters in the optical path eliminate that yellow light. So what you end up with then is a green that's more slightly yellowish and a red that's slightly more orangish than would naturally be happening in a natural scene or in the way that the display should be representing that natural scene. And so this skews the color gamut quite a bit and winds up in resulting in grass that looks more green, less green and more yellow than you might see, for example, when watching a soccer pitch. I think that LCDs as a manufacturing technology may be somewhat mature, but at the same time, there's still a lot of innovation happening in LCD, as you've seen over the last several years, both in terms of increased color gamut, but also front of screen brightness has gone up dramatically. I think as a result of very interesting things people are now trying to do, like dual cell technology, you're going to see continued innovation in LCD, and that's going to drive new sets of requirements for quantum dots. Mostly what I see is more and more light coming through the set and a more realistic picture experience as a result. Something that's more like, you know, when you look at the TV and there's a scene that's daylight on the TV, it looks like daylight rather than just looks like kind of a soft gray version of daylight. And so, you know, this realism, photorealism is a very real and compelling thing. I think that LCDs can continue to drive forward with more innovation.
Now, you mentioned higher efficiency, which leads to higher brightness. So as an example, I don't know if you can talk about this, but since the product's announced and maybe on the market, the Vizio P Quantum X this year is significantly brighter than last year, right? They're saying actual 3,000 nits is their spec. Last year, I think it was maybe 2,000. Mm-hmm. That additional 1,000 is actually huge. How much of that was, or is your film, or how much of it is just more light being generated in the backlighting panel?
Yeah, so we work closely with Vizio to basically get them a film that really met their requirements. And the key point there is not just the brightness, which obviously you noted how much brighter that got. And we've measured those sets, and they're routinely, 10 or 15% above that 3,000 nit level.
Wow.
But it's also the cost point, the price point they were able to deliver that at.
Low bit color gives you banding. High bit color eliminates banding. And so you see that example, 24-bit color, ooh, it's so smooth. But at some point, it's diminishing returns. What about 1,000 bits of color? No, you're not going to tell the difference between 1,000 bits of color and 24 bits of color. And in Dolby's case, they felt that 12 bits of color is about as much as the human eye would be able to notice anyway. So Dolby has researched and said 12-bit color, that's all we need. We don't need to go beyond 12-bit color. 8-bit was bad, right? Come on, only 100 nits. 10 bits is good. Don't get me wrong. I love the TVs that we have here. 10-bit color. 12-bit is the final domain because it incorporates 10,000 nits worth of light, which has a huge psychological effect as well. I mean, you feel the heat. Your body is warming up. In our interview with the NanoSys CEO, that's exactly how he described it. When he saw the 10,000 nit monitor, it just lit up his whole body, right? So that's why 12 bits is awesome. But your TV cannot handle 12 bits. The 12-bit signal cannot be incorporated in a 10-bit TV because our TVs don't go beyond a few thousand nits at best. Most TVs are lucky to break 1,000 nits. And so as long as TVs are limited by their brightness, we will never, ever see 12-bit color as defined by Dolby Vision or HDR10+. Both of them require light to bring you those additional colors. And remember, HDR10, just regular old HDR10, there are movies mastered up to 4,000 nits, Mad Max. So unless your TV is capable of 4,000 nits, it's not fully embodying the movie's entire 10-bit color space. You see the problem here? Now Dolby Vision, also 10 bits, 4,000 nits, same thing. Any material mastered to 4,000 nits, whether it's Dolby Vision or HDR10 or HDR10+, if your TV is not capable of that brightness, you're losing color, even though it's only 10-bit color. So our TVs today have yet to hit the ceiling of 10-bit color, and we're demanding for 12-bit color. Well, of course the TV makers are puzzled. Like, wait a minute, we haven't finished with 10-bit color yet. We haven't given you everything that 10-bit color offers. You want 12 bits? Other standards may be able to give you 12-bit color without using brightness. But this is specific to TVs, and that's why we're focusing on that. I understand, Photoshop and photography, they have their own way of defining bit depth. But for TVs, Dolby has defined it using luminance, brightness. How bright can your TV get? Means how close you can get to Dolby's version or HDR10+, their version of 12-bit color. What Dolby wants to tell you is 12 bits is the future and they're ready. They've laid the groundwork. They've defined all the colors within this 12-bit space, right? This 12-bit depth, this 4,096 shades. Dolby has predefined all of that, and they're just waiting for the TVs to get to the point where it's so bright that it could completely embody every one of those colors. We know that everybody, and when I say everybody, I mean everybody, is going OLED. China, CSOT, BOE, Korea, LG, Samsung. Everybody is investing in OLED as the future. As a matter of fact, in 2021, we're going to have a collision course of OLED production. But what I would like to propose is maybe we focus on 4,000 nits. Okay, let's set the stage real quick. Everybody is focusing on OLED. We'll start with LG. LG, first half of the year, 400 million in profit. By the end of the year, it is predicted they are going to lose 850 million. So they go from 450, 420 million above the line to 850 million below the line. This meaning break even. First half of the year and by the end of the year. All because of LCD, right? LCD is killing us. We're not making any money LCD. So they redirect everything into OLED. They fire 17% of their executives, get people off of LCD. Let's just do OLED. 2020, year of the OLED. 2021, 2022, all OLED. But LG isn't alone. Samsung just announced a few weeks ago, $11 billion into QD-OLED, which is OLED, right? Quantum dot OLED, OLED. And of course the Chinese, right? Wherever consumers are going, they're going to build it. So what have the Chinese done? Well, last year, CSOT, owned by TCL, built a plant, 11th generation plant. We're talking the same level plant that LG just built in China, right? This is the top of the line plant made for building large panel OLED displays. We're talking 65-inch, 75-inch size displays. So CSOT, TCL has that lined up, ready for production in 2021. And they're going to use Inkjet OLED, not just any OLED, but Inkjet. Well, why is Inkjet OLED so awesome? Two reasons, really. One, cheaper OLEDs, less waste, and two, higher quality. What's not to love? LG is doing the same. They're beginning their research, and they should have their Inkjet production up 2021 as well, probably. And Samsung is no different. They're looking at OLED. They are probably going to use inkjet printed OLED as soon as possible. Maybe not by 2021, but certainly thereafter. And China, right? The country of China has lined up supplies, materials to feed the OLED monster that will happen in 2021. So everything, BOE, all these large manufacturers of displays have been announcing OLED as the future, or a transition before we get to micro LEDs. Okay, and I understand that. What I don't understand is, where is this demand coming from? Now, consumers buy whatever's available, right? If you only have OLED, oh well, I mean, consumers are complaining right now, well, I liked plasma, but you don't have much of a choice because there's no plasma. You gotta buy LCDs or OLED. Well, same thing's gonna happen. So, they're going to force OLEDs down your throat. Let me take the devil's advocate why OLED sucks, frankly. And it's based on research. Consistently. And Dolby made this research, it's not me. In the scale of things that are important to consumers, once you hit 4K resolution, resolution is no longer important. 4K, 8K, 16K, not a big deal. The two things that consumer notice the most, brightness, high frequency, or high refresh rates, right? HFR, high frame rate. We'll start with brightness, because that comes first. If you put 100 people in a room and you show them a bunch of TVs, double blind test, the one TV they will consistently choose is the brighter TV. That's it. Very simple. And right now we've reached a physical limit of brightness, which is, I believe the brightest TV you can get is probably the Sony 8K that hits 4,000 nits. Very expensive TV, right? We're talking $15,000 around there. But that's it. 4,000 nits. You hit 4,000 nits and you will sell that TV faster than any OLED. Dollar for dollar, the brighter TV wins. I'm seeing it here. H9F, TCL. TCL slightly cheaper, more color accurate. Most of you really don't care. You all say the same thing. We recognize the differences. You're showing me the differences, but the H9F just pops more. I agree with you, by the way. I love that it pops more. I'm just bringing out the differences, right? And in a dark room where ultimate brightness is not as much of an issue, I do lean on color accuracy, but in this brighter room, you see behind me the TVs, the brighter TV is going to grab your attention every single time. As a matter of fact, I will even postulate that more often than not, people don't notice color accuracy in a bright room. You just are not in position to go, ooh, that shade of gray is perfect. No, you want to see that bright sunlight, right? Okay. For the sake of argument, if the brighter TV always outsells the dimmer TV, regardless of color accuracy. And we're not talking cinema aficionados who are the 0.5%. We're talking the 90% that drives sales at Best Buy and Costco. If brightness is the critical component, why are we investing in OLED? OLED, no OLED technology, nothing in the horizon has anything above 2,000 nits. Nothing. Right now, they're working on hitting 1,000 nits. They cannot hit 1,500 nits. And if they did, it would blow up. Your Hollywood mastering professional OLED monitors barely breaks 1,000 nits, and even to do so, You got these fans, it's tiny, and it lasts a year, maybe two, before the whole TV just burns out. Okay, that's the state of OLED today and tomorrow. Inkjet printing doesn't fix that. You know what inkjet printing brings to the table? A cheaper 500 nit OLED with better color. We already talked about this. The color is good enough, right? And you can't get more color at 1500 nits. If you want 12-bit color, you understand 12-bit color needs 4000 nits. Dolby Vision is to be mastered at 4000 nits for 12-bit color. Dolby Vision cannot give you 12-bit color at 1000 nits or at 2000 nits. 4000 nits. OLED will never get you 12-bit color then. Let's just get that out of the way. At barely 1000 nits, and we're talking the Panasonic custom job, the GZ2000, right? It doesn't even hit 1000 nits, and it costs a bundle. No way are these cheaper discount mainstream OLEDs that are hitting the market between now and 2023, they are not going to get close to 1500 nits. Forget 2000. Okay, so I've panned OLED enough. Guys, it's not going to get you that 4000 nits. So let's do a thought experiment now. TCL, you guys are forward thinking. You're willing to take a risk. Take this risk, please. At CES, roll out a 4K TV, quantum dot, in the back panel, give me 4000 nits. Just as an experiment. Give me a 12-bit screen, right? 12-bit display, 4000 nits, mastered Dolby Vision. The only 12-bit display out there, right? Because no one else could run 12 bits on 1000, 2000 nits. Not 8K. You don't even need 8K. This is a point to be made. The point to be made is my 4K display with 4000 nits and 12-bit color will destroy anything out there, including micro LED. Why? Micro LED doesn't guarantee 4000 nits. It just guarantees above 1000 nits with OLED-like colors. I'm telling you, you're going to get OLED-like colors with 12-bit 4000 nits on a 4K display. So I think I've beat this horse to death enough. TCL, if you're listening, remember, this is a thought experiment. You could afford to do this. Get me a bright as hell panel. Yeah, blooming, whatever. Don't care. You can make the material work. 12-bit color, 4000 nits, 75-inch screen. You put that up there, I guarantee you, all the eyeballs will drift to you. Hold on now. CES 2020 came and went, and there was no mention of QD-OLED? What gives? Well, guess what? Samsung Display had a private showing of their QD-OLED after all. It was behind closed doors, but we have an update and some news about QD-OLED. Yeah, I thought it was kind of strange there was no mention of QD-OLED at all, but on second thought, it's not so strange if you think about it. CES 2020 was organized and hosted their entire presentation by Samsung Electronics. Samsung Display, on the other hand, is in charge of QD-OLED. Remember, Samsung Electronics had a two-track plan. QLED, micro LED. No QD-OLED. QD-OLED is in the domain of Samsung Display. That $11 billion, all Samsung Display. So, what is the update? You will all be disappointed to hear that there hasn't been much progress. So these are people who were there, and I've linked their reports below. I found it very interesting that, well, let's start with the disappointment. 150 nits. Apparently, the OLEDs they were comparing themselves to, they were really proud that they only had to beat 150 nits. What is this, 2012? For some reason, they didn't realize that the competition is up to almost 1000 nits, specifically the Panasonic 2000 for 2020, right? The HZ2000, you know, the Panasonic HZ2000 this year will hit close to 1,000 nits, and last year almost hit 900 nits. But for some strange reason, the Samsung display team thought it only had to hit 150 nits. And so they were really proud to show off their 4K and 8K QD-OLED beating 150 nits. So that was a little disappointing. Secondly, and this is even more disappointing, there were reports that the blacks were lifted. Worse, they were saying that, as a matter of fact, it didn't perform as well as quantum dot LCDs from anybody. That's not a good sign. And the last disappointment, and this is one that makes complete sense, they were overheating. This is why they've been having burn-in problems. As a matter of fact, it's the reason why Samsung Display shut down the entire OLED project. It was because they couldn't get over the burn-in problem. And part of what caused the burn-in was their displays were overheating. Well, at CES, eyewitnesses were saying the same thing. The display was still overheating. That's not a good sign. What was interesting though, I mean, those three things, if that wasn't interesting enough, they told the people present that they weren't using a color filter. That throws me off completely because weren't they supposed to use Nanosys's quantum dot color conversion filter? Maybe what they meant was they weren't using a traditional color filter and they were using quantum dot color conversion filter. It's quite confusing. So there's still some question as to exactly what technology they're implementing. But one thing's for sure, the status as of today, assuming the TVs they were showing off last week at CES are their most current update, it's as if there's been no progress. Lifted blacks, just over 150 nits, panel overheating. That is not a good sign if you are planning to release something like this in 2021. Samsung has been working on QD-OLED for a few years now. It's not like, oh, I want to do it overnight, right? But they've been struggling with it, right? I've posted some links of their struggles, but specifically what they want to do differently than LG is use what we call a blue OLED emitter. And the blue emitter is kind of like the unicorn of OLED in that it's very difficult to get right. It is inefficient, it needs to be pure, it's hard to get pure blue, and it's very unstable. In other words, major burn-in. So you have to have those, and it's expensive as hell, right? So if you do those three things, it's not going to be cheap. And as recently as a few weeks ago, at the OLED Summit, this is the Global OLED Summit in San Jose on September 25th, right? They had a talk specifically addressing the blue OLED bottleneck. This is the blue emitter bottleneck, meaning you cannot get OLED to be perfect until you solve the blue emitter. Well, the core of QD-OLED technology is the blue emitter. That's why they shelved it. That's why they delayed introduction of QD-OLED way back in May of this year. They said, you know what, we still haven't figured this out, and our suppliers haven't figured it out. And to this day, right, at the summit, they admitted they're still struggling with finding a way to make blue emitters work. And you have alternative technologies, right, TADF or phosphorescence, but the traditional fluorescent, which cost-wise is still going to be your best bet, it's not working out. And LG avoided all that and just went with a white OLED emitter, right? White light, and then have color filters, and did that. And it's worked for them. It allowed them to control burn-in. It's not eliminated, but it's controlled. And of course, it's now, relatively speaking, affordable. It allowed them to bring to market a affordable, relatively speaking, premium flagship OLED. What's interesting is Samsung promises not only is their QD-OLED better, but it would be cheaper. So that's the promise of QD-OLED, assuming they solve the blue emitter issue. And that's why people predicted 2023. They assumed that with 10 billion at their disposal, it would still take them at least a year to find a workaround around this blue emitter bottleneck, and then put it into pilot testing, and then finally get it to market in 2023. But they must have found some solution, because 2021 is now the predicted date. Now, who predicted this, or who said this? None other than the president of Nanosys. Who's Nanosys? Those are the guys that are creating quantum dots. These are the original QLED guys, quantum dot. Every time you see quantum dot on any TV, TCL, Hisense, Q90R, right, QLED, it was developed by Nanosys. And even more insight, in 2010, when Nanosys was struggling to get this whole quantum dot thing off the ground, when no one believed that it even worked, who was an investor in that fifth round with 15 million? None other than Samsung. So Samsung came in and poured money into Nanosys to make sure that, you know what, this quantum dot looks promising. We want rights. And they got it, right? They got the QLED. So Nanosys and Samsung have been tied at the hip since 2010, and that's why they've been pushing QLED. This is their investment. They are partly responsible for the success of Nanosys. So Nanosys owes them big. Additionally, Nanosys, of all the suppliers, I assume would know where Samsung is going with QD, quantum dot, QD-OLED. So I don't know if Nanosys would incorrectly predict. Well, let's start with the prediction. Where did I get this? In an interview with AV Forum's podcast, posted a link below. I strongly encourage you guys to listen to that YouTube channel. Wonderful information, great reviews, and I timestamped where you could find this. I think it's like 38 minutes and something or other. The president, Jason Hartloff, specifically said, QD-OLED 2021, consumers can buy at that time. Now, that surprised me, but it surprised the host of the show. Like, that's in 2 years. And he says, yeah, that's about right. And he felt that, $10 billion and where they are right now, 2 years is the way to go. Expect it in 2 years. Now we're in 2021. So let's play the game of, would you buy an OLED, QD-OLED from Samsung? So forget 2021. Let's fast forward to today. Let's assume, for the sake of argument, Samsung has this QD-OLED available for you today, but it comes at a price premium. There's no way they're going to invest $10 billion into this amazing new OLED technology with more color space and charge you less, right? That promises of charging you less, pipe dream, come on. They got to recoup that $10 billion. They will charge you more. Just like LG is charging you more for their OLED. But LG now, street prices for the C9 is $2,500. Samsung, unlikely will be $2,500. Most likely, $3,500. Okay. Would you today pay $3,500 for a QD-OLED, but you are getting something more on the table? You are getting better color space. That is probably noticeable. So more accurate colors, better than what LG OLED brings. And I'm going to assume it's brighter, right? Because if I'm paying an extra 1,000, it better be brighter. Now, it won't be over 1,000 nits. I think that's maybe pushing it a bit. I'm going to say 950 nits, right? We're playing this game. Let's be realistic. 950 nits. To compare, currently LG C9, low 700s. So this is noticeable, right? This is a 30%, 40% improvement in brightness. So that's pretty good. Would you pay the premium? It's brighter, more color, but it's going to cost you $1,000 more. Now, as context, the Sony A9G is already costing you $1,000 more, and it brings nothing to the table, not even HDMI 2.1. So, only a nut like me would pay a premium for the Sony A9G and get nothing more out of it, right? Other than morbid curiosity. But this Samsung QD-OLED, for the sake of argument and this game here, if it brought these additional improvements, would you pay that extra $1,000 for that OLED? Because now LG becomes the price leader. It is no longer, oh, you're buying the best. You're just buying a cheaper OLED that's slightly inferior, $2,500. What if it was $2,000? Because by 2021, I suspect that the LG C9 equivalent at that point will no longer be $2,500. Maybe prices will adjust downward and they'll be closer to $2,000. What if it was $2,000 for the LG C9 versus $3,000 for the Samsung QD-OLED with those same improvements, right? A little bit more brightness, but burn-in is not solved. Let's get that out of the way. The very nature of organic emitters is they will degrade due to humidity, oxidation, right? And due to use. Forget humidity. If you just keep on using it, it just degrades over time. It's not going to last more than 10 years. That's the nature of organic particles. So the burn-in is not solved, but you get better color space, more brightness. Would you pay an extra $1,000 for this QD-OLED in about a year or two? It's an interesting question because that's what Samsung appears to be betting $10 billion on. Man, I think that's a bad bet though. Samsung, don't do this. But maybe it's too late. I mean, the CEO of Analysis came out and said it's come out in 2021, so maybe the die has been cast. What do you guys think? Until next time, stop the FOMO.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
For the record, I'm done trying to make y'all comfortable. For the record, you ain't trying to grow, then it's done for you. For the record, lab on me, going all the way. For the record, ain't trying to link, no time to waste. For the record, for the record, yeah. For the record, yeah. For the record, yeah. For the record, for the record.